Why do people go to war? Why do they make big plans? Why do they lead or follow? These are big questions. And a long time ago, one small land began to ask them. This land had blue water, tall mountains, and old stones. But more than that, it had people who loved to think. They sat under trees. They looked at stars. They asked, what is good? What is right? This story is about them, about their dreams, their fights, and their thoughts. This is Leo. He is young. He watches, listens, and learns. He wants to grow strong, not just with his hands, but with his mind. He is not rich. He is not a king, but he has something powerful, a question. Today, you will follow his world, a world of ideas, of leaders, of thinkers. Stay with us. The journey is just starting. Keep watching. You will see how one empire changed the world and maybe your mind too. Let's go back. Let's meet the first thinkers of Greece. What did life look like in ancient Greece? It was simple, but it was full. People lived in small houses made of stone. The streets were narrow. Children played with sticks and stones. Women cooked. Men talked in the market. And everyone, rich or poor, looked up at the sky and wondered. In the town, there is a girl named Anna. She is 10 years old. Every morning, she helps her father sell olives and bread. She likes to listen. She listens to old men talk about the stars, the gods, and the seasons. One day, she hears someone ask, "Why does the sun move across the sky?" She does not know the answer, but she remembers the question. Greece was poor in gold, but rich in questions. People did not only work, they thought. They asked. They shared ideas. Even when life was hard, they had time to talk. That was their power. Life in Greece was warm, loud, and full of stories. The sea brought new things. The land gave food, and the mind gave hope. So now you see, in this world, words mattered, and the way people talked would soon change the world. Let's go to one special city, Athens. It was not the biggest, but it had the biggest dreams. Athens was not just a city, it was a place for ideas. People came from farms, islands, and other towns. They walked into the city with questions. And in Athens, questions had a home. In the center of Athens, there was a big open place. People sat under trees. They talked all day, not just about food or family, but about justice, truth, and life. Some people argued. Some just listened. But everyone was free to speak. There was a man named Demos. He was not rich. He made shoes. But in the city center, his voice was important. He stood up and said, "I don't want a king. I want a vote." And people listened. This was new. In other places, kings gave orders. In Athens, the people had power. This was the beginning of something big. It was called democracy. Not everyone agreed. Some were afraid. Some said it was too messy, too slow. But many people believed in it. They believed in words, not swords. Athens became known for this idea that every person can think, speak, and choose. This changed the city, and one day it would change the whole world. But not far from Athens, another city had a very different dream. Let's go there next. Let's see Sparta. Sparta was not like Athens. In Sparta, people did not talk much. They trained, they fought, they obeyed. From a young age, boys left home. They went to school, but not to read or write. They learned to fight, to run, to feel no pain. There is a boy named Cleo. He is 12 years old. Cleo wakes up before the sun. He runs with no shoes. He eats little. Even when he is hurt, he does not cry. At night, he thinks about his mother. He misses her voice, but he does not speak. In Sparta, silence is strong. Life in Sparta was hard, but many people loved it. They felt safe. They felt proud. They did not want votes. They wanted order. They did not ask questions. They followed rules. While Athens was busy talking, Sparta was preparing for war. Its soldiers were famous. People feared them. They did not wear gold. They wore red. They marched in lines. They moved like one body. Sparta and Athens were both Greek, but they lived in two different worlds. One loved ideas. The other loved strength. Soon, these two worlds would meet, not with words, but with war. Let's meet a man who came after them. Someone who took ideas and war and made them even bigger. In Athens, one man changed everything, not with a sword, but with a question. His name was Socrates. He did not write books. He did not give big speeches. He walked through the city and asked people simple things. What is good? What is fair? What is a good life? At first, people liked him. They laughed. They answered. But then something strange happened. The more Socrates asked, the more people felt unsure. They did not know the answers. Some felt angry. Others felt lost. There is a boy named Nico. He sees Socrates in the market. Socrates talks to a rich man. He asks, "You say you are wise, but what do you really know?" The man turns red. He has no answer. Nico watches in silence. He doesn't understand everything, but he feels something strong. Socrates never told people what to think. He wanted them to think for themselves. He believed truth lives inside us. We only need to dig. Not everyone liked this. Some said he was dangerous. He made people question the gods, the laws, the city, and in the end, they put him on trial. Socrates could run, but he didn't. He stood in court and said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Then he drank poison and died. His body died, but his questions stayed. And one of his students would carry them forward into something even greater. Let's meet him next. His name was Plato. Plato was not just a student, he was a listener. When Socrates spoke, Plato stayed quiet, but his heart was full. After Socrates died, Plato felt lost. He walked the streets. He remembered the questions, and he made a choice to keep them alive. Plato started something new at school. It was called the Academy. It was not big. It had no desks or uniforms, just trees, quiet paths, and people who wanted to think. Every day, students came. They sat on the ground. They asked, "What is love? What is real? Is the world we see the true worlder just a shadow?" Near the school, there is a girl named Leah. She walks by each morning. She hears voices from the garden. Not loud, not angry, just slow, calm words. She doesn't understand, but she feels something inside her hope. Plato believed that ideas can shape people. He wrote stories, not just facts. In one, he told of people in a dark cave, only seeing shadows. He said, "We must turn to the light. We must see the truth." To Plato, thinking was not just for fun. It was a way to live, a way to grow, a way to be free. One of his students listened deeply. He asked big questions. But he also looked at real things: birds, stars, people. His name was Aristotle. Let's meet him now. Aristotle was full of questions, but he was different from Plato. Plato looked at ideas. Aristotle looked at life. Aristotle wanted to know everything: the sky, the sea, the animals, the mind. To him, the world was not a dream. It was real, and it had rules. Every day, he walked in the garden. He looked at trees. He listened to birds. He asked, "Why does a bird sing? Why do people feel joy or pain?" He did not just wonder. He wrote. He made lists. He made plans. He wanted to organize the world. There is a boy named Theo. One day, he sees Aristotle watching a bird. Theo laughs and asks, "Why do you look at that bird so long?" Aristotle smiles and says, "Because it knows something we don't." Aristotle taught many things: science, logic, art, politics. He said a good life needs balance. Not too much work, not too much fun, not too rich, not too poor. He called it the middle way. He did not want people to follow others. He wanted them to learn from the world, to see with their own eyes, to think with their own mind. One day, a new student came to him. He was not quiet. He was a prince. He was hungry to learn and hungry for power. His name was Alexander. He would not only study the world, he would try to take it. Let's follow him next. Alexander was just a boy, but he was not like other boys. He was strong, he was smart, and he wanted more land, more stories, more life. His teacher was Aristotle. Every day, Alexander asked questions. He learned about maps, animals, and war, but deep inside, he had one dream: to become great. At age 20, his father died. Alexander became king. He was young, but he was ready. He looked at the map and said, "This is too small." He wanted to go easto, lands he had never seen. There is a small boy named Marcos in a village. He plays with a wooden sword. He tells his mother, "I want to be like Alexander." She smiles, but says nothing. She knows that power has a price. Alexander's army moved fast. He rode a strong horse. His helmet shined in the sun. He crossed rivers and mountains. He never gave up. People called him brave. Some called him a god. But he was still human. At night, Alexander would sit alone. He looked at the stars and wondered, what is my place in this world? Sometimes the stars felt close. Sometimes they gave no answer at all. He won many battles. He took cities. He made people bow. But more than that, he spread ideas. He carried Greek thinking with him into Asia, into Egypt, into the hearts of many. His journey was far from over. Let's follow him as he steps into new lands. Lands full of sand, stories, and silence. Alexander did not stop. He crossed rivers. He walked through deserts. He climbed mountains. He went farther than any Greek before him. His dream was bigger than land. He wanted to build a world with one heart, one mind. He reached Egypt. It was hot, dry, and full of old wonders. Pyramids stood tall in the sand. The Nile River moved like a silver line across the land. People looked at Alexander and asked, is he a king or a god? In a small village, a boy named Rami saw him ride past. Alexander wore strange clothes. His voice was calm but strong. The people called him Pharaoh. But Alexander said, I am Greek. Rami did not understand. But he felt something new had arrived. Alexander built a city near the sea. He called it Alexandria. It had wide roads and tall buildings. One day, it would have the biggest library in the world. A place for books, for ideas, for dreams. He did not stop there. He went east, into India. His men followed him, but they were tired. The heat was strong. The path was hard. Some asked, why do we keep going? But Alexander always said, just a little more. He was not just a king. He was a storm. He was a dream that never slept. But even great dreams must slow down. Even great kings must rest. Let's see what happened when the journey reached its end. Alexander went far. He saw lands his people never knew. He built cities. He won battles. But after many years, his body grew tired. His heart felt heavy. In a far city, he became sick. His men waited. They hoped. But he did not get better. One day, in a far city, he became sick. His men waited. They hoped. But he did not get better. At just 32 years old, Alexander died. The world went quiet. His army cried. His cities stood still. No one was ready. There was no clear plan. No one strong enough to take his place. The empire broke. His generals fought each other. They cut the land into pieces. Greece, Egypt, and Asia were no longer one. They were many again. Old Demos, who once spoke in the streets of Athens, heard the news. He shook his head and said, we forgot the ideas. We followed a man. People felt lost. They asked, what now? Who will lead us? Where do we go from here? But not everything was gone. The roads stayed, the cities stayed, and most of all, The ideas stayed. The sword may break, but a thought can last forever. Let's see how these Greek ideas traveled across time and still live with us today. After Alexander died, his empire was gone, but the ideas of Greece were still alive. They moved from city to city, from land to land. People read Greek books. They talked about Greek questions. They built schools and libraries, just like in Athens. In Rome, leaders read the words of Plato and Aristotle. They used Greek thinking to build laws and run cities. In Egypt, people studied stars and math the Greek way. In small towns across Europe, teachers told stories from Greece. There is a boy named Milo in Italy. One day, he finds an old book in a market. Inside, he sees the words, "Know yourself." He reads them again. He smiles. The words are simple, but they feel deep. He does not know the writer, but the words stay with him. Books were copied by hand. They traveled by boat, by horse, and by foot. Some were hidden. Some were burned. But many survived. And they waited for new eyes to see them, for new minds to ask again. Ideas do not die like kings. They live in quiet places, in books, in voices, in hearts. And today, when you learn, speak, or vote, you still walk with Greece beside you. Let's take a closer look at how Greek thinking lives in our world right now. Greek ideas are not just in the past, they are in your world today. When people vote for a leader, that comes from Athens. When students sit in a classroom and ask questions, that comes from Socrates. When teams make a plan to win, that comes from Greek strategy. In a small town, a girl named Emma plays chess with her father. She thinks, then moves her piece. "Why do I have to plan ahead?" she asks. Her father says, "Because it's Greek thinking." That's how they won by planning, not just by fighting. Emma smiles. She did not know this, but now she feels proud. In schools, teachers ask students to think, not just to remember. That is Greek. In sports, coaches use tactics and teamwork. That is Greek. In courts, people speak and defend their ideas. That is Greek too. Even movies, books, and games use stories that follow the Greek way heroes, questions, battles inside the heart. You may not see it, but you live with these ideas every day. They help you ask. They help you grow. They help you make choices. So, the next time you solve a problem, speak your mind or choose a path. Remember this: someone in Greece once did the same. Now, you may wonder, why do ideas matter so much? Why do people still care after so many years? Let's answer that next. Some people say, thinking does not build a house. Thinking does not make money. So why think? Why ask big questions? The Greeks believed that a good life is not just about things. It is about the mind, about asking, learning, growing. They said, a life without thought is an empty life. It is easy to follow others, easy to stay busy, but it is harder to stop and ask, why am I doing this? What do I really want? There is a young man named Kai. He sits on a train going home from work. He feels tired. He looks out the window. Then he writes on a small piece of paper, "What is a good life?" He has no answer, but the question stays in his mind. That is how it begins with a question. One small question can change how you live, how you love, how you dream. Thinking gives you direction. It helps you choose your path. It makes you stronger inside. The Greeks were not perfect, but they gave us something powerful: the courage to ask. And that courage came from a small place with a big heart. Let's go back and see how it all began. Greece was not big. It had no great rivers, no wide land, no gold. But it had people who thought deeply, who spoke bravely, who dreamed loudly. From this small place came big ideas about life, freedom, truth, and power. These ideas moved like a wave, first across the sea, then across the world, and now they live in you. In a quiet village, a girl named Lena looks up at the stars. She says, "I live in a small town. I am not rich. But if Greece could change the world, maybe I can change something too." You don't need to be powerful to matter. You don't need to be loud to be heard. Greece showed us that. The strength of this place was not in its army. It was in its words, its questions, its spirit. Today, many things have changed, but the wave still moves. In books, in schools, in your choices, you are not too small to ask. You are not too late to learn. Every voice counts, yours too. So now, what will you do with this story? Let's end with one last steepone, last feeling. You started this video to learn English, but maybe along the way you found something more. You walked through the streets of Athens. You stood in silence with Sparta. You asked questions with Socrates. You dreamed with Plato. You looked at life with Aristotle. And you rode across the world with Alexander. You saw that power can fade, but ideas can last. You felt that even small voices can shape big things. Somewhere in the world, a girl in Mexico listens and smiles. A boy in Morocco asks his first big question. A mother in Poland watches with her child. They may speak different languages, but today they share the same thought. Big change always starts with one quiet momentone thought, one choice. So now keep learning. Keep asking. Let your questions grow. Let your voice rise. And if this story touched something inside you, come with us again. There are more stories to tell, more lives to feel, more words to understand. This is not the end. It's just the next beginning.